I've watched pro bodybuilders try to use goblet squats, and they're like doing the squat, they hit a set of 10, and clearly their arms are really shaky, and they put the weight down, they're like, set of 10. Like, what are you doing? Hey folks, Dr. Mike here for Renaissance Periodization, and I'm going to talk to you today about the advantages and disadvantages of doing goblet squats, everyone's favorite. P.S. I'm a professor of sport and exercise science. It took a long while to say. Bodybuilder, grappler, hit the like and subscribe things, do YouTube stuff. Also, to me, goblet, every time I hear it, it sounds like gobble, which is a sound that turkeys make. And I wonder if, oh, there it is, Scott the video guy doing the turkey sound. I think there are only two possibilities for why turkeys make that absurd sound. One is they're just trying to piss us off, or two, they have an as yet indecipherable, incredibly complex language. Let me know in the comments which one you think it is. But before you go typing in, let's talk about the upsides of goblet squats. Because yes, this is a video that is designed to be critical of goblet squats. But I find that many times criticism that doesn't acknowledge the benefits of something is sort of only telling half the story. And that's no good. So, goblet squats, number one big advantage is they are awesome at promoting an excellent upright posture. They let you keep your heels and toes on the ground, which is really good, critical for good squatting technique. They promote minimum rounding of the lower back. They let your knees travel free. They let you keep your chest up. And as a matter of fact, the dumbbell right here in front of you kind of torques your chest down a little bit, and it's an awesome reinforcement cue to keep it up. Because sometimes when the bar is behind your back, your chest is kind of up anyway, but then you forget that that's what you're supposed to be doing. Your chest sinks and there's no instant reminder of it. So the fact that the dumbbell feels heavy here makes you stay more upright. So it's actually an amazing teaching tool for basic, really good squat mechanics. And it's really easy to hit depth. So a lot of people that say they can't hit depth with a regular squat, a lot of times because they get bunched up back here, their knees do weird stuff when the bar is behind them, you give them a dumbbell or a kettlebell and put it right here in front of the chest, and all of a sudden they're hitting really good depth. And that can be a really cool thing for technical reasons, mechanical reasons, like, look, you're hitting depth, and here's now you practicing. The neural pathways are getting good at hitting depth. You're aware of where your body is in space. And it's also another really awesome thing kind of psychologically, because a lot of clients, especially beginners, may come to you with all sorts of preconceived notions about what is and not possible for their human body at the time. Some of these notions are just from being on the internet for too long and thinking that squats are bad for your knees or depth is bad for your knees. Sometimes people have had sort of poor advice from surgeons that they've had knee surgery, hip surgery before. They say, well, I can't go below 90 degrees, which is almost always wrong. And so letting them do a very safe, not scary goblet squat and realize they can go all the way down is actually a really big deal. And people go, oh, hey, I hit a full squat. Like, yep, that's right. And we're just putting the barbell on your back away from you hitting a for real full squat. So it's an awesome, awesome, awesome teaching tool for that. And another big benefit of goblet squats is it's so easy to set them up, especially if you're a personal trainer. You just hand your client a dumbbell or a kettlebell and you're good. It doesn't matter where. There's no equipment required. So goblet squatting is unbelievably easy to set up. And that's a big deal, especially if you're a personal trainer and you're training clients in a busy gym floor. The rack has a line of 3 people to it, and your client isn't the world's strongest man, so they get a lot out of goblet squats. More on that in just a bit. It's awesome. You just it's a squat exercise anywhere you want. And lastly, something that's not on the list but is kind of worth mention is that the probability of a disaster with goblet squats is insanely low. Because if you have a squat bar on your back and something goes wrong, most times you're going to be totally fine. But there's a small, though noted chance that it's on your back and behind you. Bad things can happen. The bar falls on you, etc., it squishes you, blah, blah, blah. With goblet squats, if you get in trouble at all you do is just let go. That's it. Just let go. The dumbbell falls almost always between your legs. And I've had a few things fall between my legs, if you know what I mean. Opportunities, I mean. Ooh, that's still sexual. But in any case, it's an exercise that is so safe that it's obviously safe even to clients who have almost nothing about training. So if you're training your clients and you're like, look, you're scared of squatting, heavy, whatever is heavy to you. They're like, yes, I've seen too many videos on YouTube. Okay, fine. Here's this dumbbell. If anything happens, you just go like this and it goes away. And then you fall on your butt or you sit down or you stand up and nothing's wrong. And there's a dumbbell there. And the worst you could do is maybe there's a little dust mite on the ground crawling. It's epic journey to reunite with its dust mite family that it hasn't seen in several hours, which for dust mite is basically half a lifetime. And then the dumbbell crushes his family right in front of you. The dust mite will not recover from that psychologically. All he's going to do for the rest of several hours he's alive is sharpen a blade right in front of a picture of you. Small downside, I say. All right, what about real downsides? The Goblet Squat has some pretty big downsides. And one of the reasons that I made this presentation for you guys is because I've gotten a lot of questions in the past and recently about Goblet Squats for a variety of different types of clients, and even folks that are very strong and very muscular. And I have a big problem with that, and here's why. You cannot load much weight and thus challenge your body with much resistance and thus get a lot of size and definitely strength benefit from Goblet Squats. Why? Dr. Mike, what are you, crazy? Dumbbells have gradations, so you can simply use a heavier dumbbell. Right? Right? Anakin meme? No. Incorrect. Sorry, Padme. Wrong again. Turns out you're dating maybe one of the most evil people of all time. Dummy. That actually, the whole Anakin Padme saga should be like a public service announcement for women picking their men. Girls, you know what I'm saying? You got to get deeper in your man before you choose that motherfucker. He could be the worst thing that's ever happened to the galaxy. I think Darth Vader maybe personally toasted like billions of people. In any case, I digress. The load weight is limited by how much the client can pick up or that you can hand to them. Imagine a regular client, Joe client, 47 years old, 187 pounds. That's right. The police code for murder is his body weight. Joe Murder, they call him. And, he can squat like a plate on a side for a set of 10, to depth on his back. It's good. Starting out, you've been training him for 8 months. And so he squats 135 for 10. And you want to do goblet squats. Squats, I mean high bar back squats. The bar's back there. Are you going to hand him a 100-pound dumbbell? How do you hand someone a 100-pound dumbbell? I actually don't know. Do you grab on the lip of the dumbbell? You try to kind of clean and jerk it up? Can you upright row 100 pounds and statically hold it? I don't know if I can. And what's he going to do? Grab it like this and then just fall forward because it's like half his body weight in his fucking hands. It's a real gnarly exercise to even set up, even if you're strong. And if you're not strong, imagine giving your regular 55-year-old female client a 50-pound, 45-pound dumbbell or kettlebell. Good God, that's a huge dumbbell. She can probably squat the bar on her back, holding a dumbbell. That's really tough, even just grabbing it and stuff. But let's say she's grabbed it. There's another problem. Let's say this person can actually grab the dumbbell and do at least one repetition. In many cases, the dumbbell's too heavy to do that. People just lean forward. They're like, I can't hold it. I can't hold it. Or else it's way too much. It even hurts their fingers to hold it, that heavy dumbbell. They say, okay, you can do one rep. They're like, yes, one rep I can do for sure. And they do the rep. And then they do another. And they're like, hey, I got this. So there's still a big problem. The client is going to be limited by holding the weight. That's going to be the limit. The ability to hold the weight and stay upright versus the limit as it should be in a leg exercise. The limit should be your quads are no longer able to overcome the resistance and thus achieve failure because of an insufficient amount of energy coming from your quads. Your quads need to be the limiting factor. When we train for hypertrophy or for strength, we push the target muscle and movement to it close to its failure point. But the target muscle is what again in the goblet squat? That's right, the quads. But here's the problem. At some point, holding a 80-pound goblet. Scott, can you do that sound again? That's really good. You've hunted in Pennsylvania before, haven't you? Same thing. Aren't turkeys just large pigeons that have kind of overstepped their bounds of what is allowable in society? They're like, fuck it. I'm going to get huge, bruh. Get off me, bruh. In any case, at some point when you're holding an 80-pound dumbbell with your two hands in front of your chest, your hands are going to start to hurt so much that you're going to stop before your legs get tired. Your arms, you are static hold curling 80 fucking pounds. That's a lot of weight. Most people can't do that for very long. Not even strong people. I sounded like Jordan Peterson for a second. You get that, Scott? Most people can't do that for very long. And it's like, who are you? It doesn't even work like that. Bucko. In any case, your arms will start to give out, like your biceps will start to sag down. And if they don't, your delts will start to give out because this is a front delt raise. It's either front delts or biceps or forearms or your hands. Something's going to go. And that makes sense because your forearms, your biceps, your delts compared to your quadriceps are puny, weak muscles. What can you curl for, well, let's say, a set of 10. Let's say you're real strong and you can strict curl 100-pound easy bar for a set of 10. That's strong. That's real good. What can you leg press? 400 for a set of 10 at least? How the fuck are you supposed to overcome a 4-to-1 strength ratio? Look at your bicep and then look at your quad. Who's going to win that fight? It's not even close. It's similar to the idea of people saying, oh man, I don't want to use like VersaGrips for my rowing, for my back, like for one-arm rows. I want to get my forearms strong. What? Who has strong enough forearms to be able to match their entire back? That person exists, but they have comically large forearms and a comically weak back. Folks, not all the muscles of their body are designed to be in balance. That's another myth we can tackle at some other point. You have to have balance between your muscles. That's all just fucking nonsense. So the goblet squat is hugely limited by your hands, biceps, and shoulders, and thus almost always, if you're remotely starting to get pretty strong, that's going to give out first, and your legs will never get a chance to get close to failure. Thus, the stimulus to your legs exists, but it's just not that great. That's it. Lastly, not only are you limited by the muscles that are holding the dumbbell, you are limited by your trunk upright posture because technically the goblet is in front of the body. It requires you to actively contract your back musculature to keep your spine in extension, to keep it from flexing forward and keep you from dumping the bar. Because of that, a lot of times the limiting factor for the muscle becomes your back. Limiting factor for the movement for the goblet squat becomes your back and not your legs. So what do we have so far? It's hands, forearms, biceps, aka forearm flexors, shoulders, back. Almost all will become limiting factors before your actual legs. It's like you are a real party fanatic and you want to stay at this party till 4 a.m., but the 3 or 4 friends you brought with you, one of them goes to bed at like usually 12. Another one goes to bed at like 11 and hates parties. One of them could go real hard till 1 a.m., then they pass out. And the other one's real psycho. He goes to 3 a.m., but then it's lights out. Guess when you're leaving that party, if you want to stay with your friends, it's not 4 a.m. You're leaving at probably about 11:30 when that one friend just gets really pissy. You're like, fine, fuck it. Let's just go home and play Jenga or whatever the fuck friends do without alcohol. It's a non-starter. So anytime people get really lean into the goblet squat, I always try to bring up the fact that like there is a lot of failure points between the legs getting the load and the load existing in your hands. And that's just real talk. I wish it wasn't the case. I love the goblet squat, but for folks that are bigger and stronger, it becomes not a thing to do. So how do you get the most out of goblet squats? Because we're not just going to throw them away. We have some ways to keep them in the mix. I have at least 3 points. 1, you can use them a ton for beginners and clients that are just not super strong, right? They're an excellent teaching tool for squat mechanics. And you can even do them to a chair at first or to a bench, then lower the bench. And so you progressively move depth down. And the fact that you have a little dumbbell in your hands can actually help counterbalance you a little bit and teach the client to push their hips back as they sit down, which a lot of people struggle with, which helps them keep their heels on the ground, which is really awesome. So those are all excellent things. And they can be an effective exercise that you just can't be very strong because especially if you're quite strong in the lower body, your upper body is just not designed to keep up with that. Right? It's like, imagine if you told someone, okay, so this is a deadlift competition. You get a deadlift as much as possible, but you have to deadlift the bar with an underhand grip and a 90-degree elbow angle the entire time. They're like, wait, so I got to dip down super low and pick it up like this? Like, like I'm not going to be able to pull 400 like I usually do. Like, well, why not? Well, because my biceps can't do a 90-degree angle at 400. We could do it maybe with 100, be like, oh, sweet. So do you think it's going to be challenging for your posterior chain, your glutes, your back, your traps, like the deadlift usually is? No, absolutely not. Same idea. It's just you take deadlift and replace the squat. And people generally can squat similar weights to what they can deadlift. Is the non-starter. The argument's over. Point number 2, try to transfer stronger clients that are gaining strength and the goblet squat's becoming limited by other things than the legs. Try to transfer them over to moves that are not limited by the upper body, like goblet squats. For example, high bar squats, hack squats, leg presses, belt squats, etc. I didn't say front squats for a reason. I have another video later about why I'm not the biggest fan of front squats for hypertrophy or strength training. And Olympic weightlifters, who are the best in the world at doing front squats and also invented them, are not huge fans of front squatting either for developing strength or muscle mass in the legs. They use high bar squats for that. The front squat is a technical movement to prepare you from getting out of the hole in a clean during the weightlifting clean and jerk movement. Front squats suffer from a milder version of the same impairment that goblet squats do. They require you to maintain a very strict rack position, which saps up a lot of your energy. Your delts get hit, your back gets hit, and it's balance-wise, it's more difficult. So your legs are honestly not positioned ideally. But things like high bar squats, hack squats, leg presses, belt squats, short step lunges, tons of replacements that are not limited by your ability to hold something in your hands. Now, if you have to use them with stronger folks, sometimes you got to do it. You got limited equipment, blah, blah, blah. Or clients just love them and they can't get enough. You can use the following technique and cadence approach to maximize the difficulty to your legs and ensure the highest probability that your legs are in fact the limiting factor and do in fact get the biggest possible stimulus. 1 is you're going to do a slow eccentric with your clients, maybe 2 or 3 seconds on the way down. 2, you're going to take a 2 to 3 second bottom pause at the stretch. That means sit right in that deep position where no one wants to be for 2 or 3 whole seconds. Fuck that. That shit sucks. Next, have your client come up only 2/3 of the way. Not all the way, but 2/3 of the way, not to lock out. That's so that the quads cannot rest. The metabolites start accumulating, and then you go right back down slow. Pause, wait, up 2/3, down slow, pause, wait, up 2/3, just like that. When your legs are getting close to failure, which it won't take long with this approach, or even if your arms start getting close to failure, what you do is keep a bench in front of you, take your goblet dumbbell, put it on the bench, rest for 2 to 3 seconds. Once your legs are good to go again, take the dumbbell right back into position and continue to do those 2/3 slow eccentric bottom paused reps. You do multiple sets back to back to back like that, Meyer rep style, rest pause style. You're probably going to cook yourself. Have fun, but this is brutal. You can do any other exercise like this, especially hack squats and leg presses. It's the fucking end of the world. It's a great thing to do. Is it going to be able to take a client who needs a 120-pound dumbbell to get the effect out of it? No, probably not. But if someone needs a 50-pound dumbbell and their legs are getting a little too strong for that, this is a way to make the 50 much more challenging. This is something that can even make your body weight challenging. So with a goblet, it can work. Kind of the only way to make it work, and it doesn't work ultra well, but it can extend the lifetime of the goblet squat for your client, so to speak. All right. Lastly, beginner, intermediate, advanced. What is everyone supposed to get out of this whole conversation? Beginners, goblet squats are great. Do them. They're awesome. That's it. Intermediates, try to use them later in your workouts after other quad moves. If you insist on goblet squats, if you really want to use them, do 4 sets of leg presses with high reps first, then go to goblet squats. You will realize your legs are so pre-fatigued that now your upper body is not the limiting factor and your legs are, which is really awesome. Try to do the Meyer rep style with 2/3 partials, as I just described, and have an honest conversation with yourself and stop using them if your legs are no longer a limiting factor. Like, I've watched pro bodybuilders try to use goblet squats in the gym, and they're like doing the squat. They hit a set of 10 and clearly their arms are really shaky and they put the weight down, like, set of 10. Like, what are you doing? Are you telling me that with an external load relatively close to your center of gravity of 120 extra pounds, you can only do 10 squats? Motherfucker, I saw you 3 days ago squat 455 for 8. How is that possible? The answer is it's not possible. Or really, it is possible. It is equally challenging. It's just challenging to the wrong parts of the body, not the legs. So sometimes you just have to have real talk with yourself and say, goblet squats? This is really hard for me to say. And they start crying right away because they know it's coming. And then they're not saying words anymore. And you're like, here's the thing, like, you want to hug them because they've been your friend for so long. but you don't want to encourage the fact that you're staying with him by hugging him because you're not. You're kind of out the fucking door. So you're like, listen, it's been so real. It's been so real. Come back. Click the door. Oh, just fucking run to your car. That's it. You'll see him again at the gym a couple weeks later, and they're like, what's up? You're like, how much? How you doing? How you doing? They're like, good. Just one day at a time. I'm good. It's good to hear, man. Hey, kind of want to shake, cuddle, but all right. Whew, tough. Breakups are tough. Advanced people. That was all from intermediates, by the way. Advanced people. Almost all uses for advanced people and stronger people are a very low stimulus to fatigue ratio for the quads and just generally to be avoided. So if you're advanced and I see you doing goblet squats, I'm just going to guess you ran out of variation or there's nothing at the gym for you to do other than goblet squats. Or somehow, weirdly, your upper body is kind of like locks into some kind of like atomic lock and your legs are the only limiting factor, which is sweet. You got like superpowers or some shit. Other than that, when you're advanced and you're doing goblet squats, I just kind of assume you haven't thought things through, which no big deal. I've barely thought through my most of my life. Certainly not breakups. Tell you that much. See you guys next time.